Hi, my name is Fatem and I'm a senior software engineer working at Autodesk. In this video, I want to show you all of the computer science classes I completed in order to earn a computer science bachelor's degree. I'm also going to share all the extra stuff I did as a student that I think helped me land internships and find the full-time position that I have right now pretty much immediately after graduation. I earned my computer science bachelor's degree from California State University, East Bay. Before East Bay, I was a community college student, so that means I transferred into East Bay as a transfer student. Being a transfer student is a very unique position to have because we complete the first 2 years of a bachelor's degree on our community college campuses already. So we go into 4-year schools having completed many units of our major. Specifically, the units are the general education classes. That's like the anthropology and English and communication stuff that you have to complete. And also, transfer students have done the first group of introductory to major classes too. In terms of computer science, these are the mathematics like calculus, differential equation, linear algebra, and the introduction to computer science or introduction to computer coding. Any like sciences like physics and chemistry. So those are the stuff that would be already completed and done for a transfer student. And by the time we get to a 4-year school, our attitude is pretty much like, I need to graduate as soon as possible because I want to have a job as soon as possible. We're done with soul searching and finding what our passions are. We have pretty much established that, okay, I want to have a job in this field, and in order to get that job, I need this degree. So yeah, when we review my classes, we're not going to see anything from that first 2 years of my education. We're just gonna dive straight into what I did at Cal State East Bay. I'm also gonna name drop some of the professors that I think are really cool people. But if you don't want to watch this entire video and you don't wanna hear me talk about Cal State East Bay, then let me summarize what I did. Basically, I was never the type of person to invest all of my time and energy in just school. I knew that getting a bachelor's degree is going to open up a lot of doors for me, but at the same time, I also knew that having a degree does not necessarily equal having a job. So I did a bunch of stuff off campus to make sure I'm aligning myself with the job market. The first and most important thing I did, I went to tech conferences and tech events around Bay Area just to network with working professionals. I would ask working professionals, hey, what type of skills should I have on my resume to increase my chances of getting an internship? Or what type of technical skills do you think I should be studying right now so that I could prepare myself for an internship? Second most important thing I did, I utilized all of the learning content online to teach myself technical skills. So from school, I just learned the basic coding skill. I just knew Python, I knew Java, I knew JavaScript, but I didn't necessarily know how to build something with it, like how to put these programming languages to use. But through YouTube, Udemy, Coursera, now Educative is a really good website too, I learned how to actually get practical and build a project. So I could put things on my resume that would attract recruiters. And the third thing I did that I think was really important to me landing internships, it was always building projects. Whether it was going to a hackathon or just having my own side project going on, I had a portfolio of interesting projects that really attracted a lot of hiring teams to my resume. So in interviews, I would talk about a project I built, a website I built, an application I built, and it would help the person interviewing me get assurance that if we hire this girl, she actually knows how to apply all of her theoretical computer science knowledge into completing a task, like getting work done. And that's the summary. Now let's get into the classes. All right, a change in the perspective, but I am sharing my screen to show you the education planner I used literally when I was a student. This is exactly what I was using to keep track of the computer science classes I'm taking and also to make sure that I'm staying on top of all of the graduation requirements. I added photos to highlight important life events like these happy dogs for my first ever internship. Another section I want to highlight right off the bat is this note that says minor mathematics prep for machine learning, stats for data science. So initially, I thought that getting a minor in mathematics or even statistics is going to help me be prepared for machine learning engineer jobs. But I quickly realized if I do a minor in mathematics, it's not going to prepare me for internships whatsoever. They don't actually teach any programming in these classes. It's just going to be a bunch of theoretical stuff. All right, so now let's get into semester by semester. This is the first semester that Cal State East Bay switched into a semester program. Before this, Cal State East Bay was a quarter-based school. So quarters are obviously shorter. For them to go into a semester system, they had to redo the curriculum of all classes. And in a very real sense, they didn't know how well or how bad this semester is going to go. When I talked to the advisors, they were like, we're going to see what we see. Good luck. So I rolled the dice and I said, whatever, let's just take these classes, see what's everything about. I took CS201. Computer Science 2 with Dr. Varric Erickson. Turned out to be the best class ever. Very difficult, but it was productive for it to be that difficult. Before this class, my confidence in my coding skills was zero. Super glad that he pushed us and he made us learn this much. The other class I took was CS211, Discrete Structures. Did not care about this in terms of being ready for a job and being more confident as a coder. This class gave me nothing. Another class that also gave me nothing was CS230, Computing and Responsibility. The last class I took this semester is Stat 316. So in terms of work, I was an undergraduate TA in the mathematics department. At East Bay, an undergraduate TA actually is called an SI leader. SI stands for Supplemental Instructions Leader. We basically provide 2 classes per week to help students study for their class, make sure that they're grasping everything that's being taught at them in the lecture. Let's move on to spring 2019. In this semester, I took CS301, which is data structures, with Hank Stelica, who is an outstanding professor. The other class I took is CS321, computer architecture. In terms of job preparation, being ready for an internship, didn't really give me anything. Same for CS411, automaton complexities. So in terms of work, I was still an undergraduate TA, but then I switched into the computer science department. I liked Dr. Varric Erickson so much that I became his TA for the CS101 Python programming class. CS101 is supposed to be a little bit easier than CS201, but this man had the same intensity in the CS101 class that he did in 201. As a TA, since I got to sit in the lectures and then provide 2 classes per week, I personally learned so much about Python. Like I went from knowing Python to being confident in coding at Python. So now let's move on to the extracurricular activities I did. Basically, this semester is when I started to apply for internships. My resume was sad and embarrassing. It was only half full. The most interesting project I had was from the CS201 class. It was like a C++ command line based project, which didn't really attract any recruiters, as you might assume already. So this semester, I was getting a lot of rejection responses from internship applications. So I told myself, let's get into a more like a hands-on type of thing. Research at that time, it seemed like a good idea to start like building a project and like starting to apply my knowledge into something. So that's how I found a machine learning research group. The professor of this research group, he usually used to teach at the graduate mathematics department, but he was kind enough to let me into his group as an undergraduate, not knowing anything student. The goal of this research group was to produce an actual research paper. So as an undergraduate student, I obviously wasn't knowledgeable enough to contribute to their research, but I was studying a lot and I was learning a lot just being part of the research group. So I went from not knowing anything about artificial intelligence to actually understanding what is a model, How do you train? How do you test? How do you validate? How do you measure accuracy? Why do you measure accuracy? So now we are in the summer 2019. Like I mentioned, I had already received a bunch of rejection letters from internship applications. So I did what any student would do. Instead of doing an internship, I tried to make the summertime as productive as possible. So the classes I took were CS311 Computer Language Concepts, and I also took an upper division general education class. As a transfer student, I thought that I'm done with all the general education classes. Like I had already gotten an AA degree from my community college. But when you transfer into a four-year school, they have this thing called upper division GE classes. And obviously, I took the easiest class that I could find just so I could get the units and get the credit. So something more interesting I did, I passed the writing skill test. I think this is something that's unique to Cal State East Bay, but they want everyone to pass a writing skill assessment. Move on to the extracurricular activity I did this summer. So I basically took control over my own career. I knew that my resume is not looking good. Like looking at the qualifications and the responsibilities that an internship job posting wanted me to have, I knew nothing. I didn't know what an API is. I'd never created websites. I didn't even know what they're asking me to do. And I also recognized that, okay, it's been a year that I've been at Cal State East Bay, but I'm getting very, very small amount of information that would actually align me well with the job market. So I took out a loan and I enrolled in this part-time data science bootcamp by General Assembly. This was the first time ever that I was part of a class where the goal was to get me ready for a job. So basically, this was a super intense class. They wanted to teach us a bunch of stuff in a short amount of time. It started off with talking about how to code in Python, which I thankfully already knew. And then it escalated really quickly into machine learning techniques, machine learning models, how to clean data, how to transform data, why even transform data, all the way to how to use an API to fetch data from somewhere instead of having files locally on your machine. This class was about how to build more than it was about data science and machine learning knowledge. I carried what I learned from this class into the next semesters. In this fall 2019, this is where I started to become much more aggressive about finding internships. So I'm slowly decreasing the amount of time and energy I spend on classes and really putting my efforts on doing side projects, learning things online the same way that I learned at this boot camp, so I could start to put together a good portfolio for myself and qualify for the next round of internships. The classes that I took is CS421 Operating Systems. I took this class with Dr. Ahmad Benafa, who is an outstanding professor. Not only he has several books on blockchain technology and a bunch of other stuff that I don't really understand, but he also has a LinkedIn page full of all of the news interviews he does. So whenever something happens in tech, a bunch of news channels, they contact him and he speaks to what's happening. Also, he teaches at San Jose State University as well as Stanford and some other places. The other class I took is CS413. This is analysis of algorithms. I took this class with Dr. Varric Erickson, who yet again carried a very intense energy into this class too. But it's productive intense. It's not just to make people suffer. He genuinely wants you to walk away with knowledge that's relevant to your future interview and to your future internship position. The other class I took is Math 300 Intro to Proofs. So this was like the last straw for me. This was when I told myself, you gotta stop with this mathematics stuff, bro. You gotta cut it out. I was sitting in this Intro to Proofs class and I realized I'm classmates with people who want to become professors and high school teachers. They are not trying to become machine learning engineers. This program wasn't even thinking about preparing people for machine learning engineers. I was just overwhelming myself with a bunch of theoretical stuff and also wasting money on paying these 3 units. For work, I was still an undergraduate TA in the computer science department. This time, I switched into the data structures class, and I was still working with Dr. Varick Erickson. I'm really happy that I switched into the data structures class because this was really helping me stay in touch with things that matter for an interview. In terms of extracurricular activities, I joined the CSR, Center for Student Research at Cal State East Bay, which is a much more appropriate place for an undergraduate student to do research. This is the first time I ever built a website. I was actually in Dr. Ahmed Benafa's class, and he was talking about final exams. The way that final exams work at Cal State East Bay, so this is basically a schedule. So you have to kind of find when the final exam of your class is, because it's not going to be at the same time that your class meets. It just takes a lot of time for you to first understand what is the layout of this table, and also like when is the actual correct time. This was like just a pain. And then I told myself, I'm a computer science student. I know how to code. There has to be a way that we can simplify this, firstly, for ourselves, and secondly, for the rest of the campus. So I built this website that's super simple. You can actually go to it. It's called CSUEBFinals.info. Finals.info. Here we go. So we are hosting it on a Python Anywhere server, which is a free service. Thank you very much. It just basically has 2 pages, and this is the link that goes into the table that I showed you. But my friend John and I, we built this super lightweight Flask application, and we deployed it. So the idea is that, let's say you meet Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 a.m. Yep. Your final exam is at this time. Although it is super simple, it's still automating something. For me personally, this was a great exercise of just, if you want to build a website in terms of front end and back end, what are we doing? Like, what do we do? Like, how do you even go about making a website available to others? More extracurricular activities. This is when I started to go to hackathons. I was going to hackathons and building shitty projects, like it was not coming together, obviously, because I didn't have the skills yet to make something like a full-scale project in a short amount of time. But I was still going to hackathons to learn from their workshops, get some recruiting done, so pass my resume around to the engineers and companies that were there to sponsor the hackathon, and just sort of like network with the students in other universities. Just ask them, what's up? How is your computer science program for you? What I also did this semester is I put together a website for myself. So I had figured out that I don't want to become a front-end engineer. So I just used a boilerplate, used Bootstrap, and then hosted this on GitHub pages. Like you can see on the URLs on GitHub pages. Just a simple static website that made my resume look a lot better, since it was like a bird's eye view of everything that I have done. All right, now let's move on to the next semester, spring 2020. This is when COVID started. In this semester, I was taking CS 401, software engineering, took this class with Chris Smith, who is an outstanding professor, also a little bit on the tough side. He really made sure that people understand the importance of Git, and they understand the importance of just overall software engineering principles. The other class I took is CS 431, database architecture. In terms of getting ready for an internship or adding value to my resume, this class did not add any value to my resume. On the side, I bought some Udemy courses, and I used YouTube tutorials to teach SQL to myself. Essentially, I wanted to have passed these 3 units, but also gain the confidence of putting SQL on my resume. The other class I took is CS 351, website development. This was with Dr. Greg Bernstein, who is another outstanding professor at East Bay. Like, he makes you be a full stack engineer by the time the semester is over. He really made it tough with the weekly homeworks and all the super tough tasks and assignments that he would give us. But honestly, it was worth it. So I also started to audit some graduate courses this semester. This is completely legal. You can do that. You could enroll in classes for no credit and just sit in a class like a quiet mouse and just learn from them. In terms of work, I was still an undergraduate TA in the computer science department, still doing data structures with Dr. Verick Erickson. This extracurricular activity is the Hack Davis. So Jonathan and I, my friend Jonathan, we went to a hackathon at UC Davis's campus and we won. I did the data science part of the project. He did more of the software engineering / some more data cleaning stuff. In terms of extracurricular activity, I built another website to help myself automate some things again. This time, instead of using Python, I use the MERN stack. MERN stands for MongoDB, that's for your database. E stands for Express.js, R stands for React, N stands for Node.js. So basically, this was a full stack JavaScript application that I built. I can use my portfolio to show you what this thing looks like. So I actually didn't do the front end part. I paired up with someone who wanted to become a front end engineer. He loved React and was into design and stuff like that. So I asked him, hey, let's link up and get this project, out here so that I could use it. As a TA, I had to take attendance of who's attending my classes. Obviously, Cal State East Bay wanted to keep tabs on how many students are utilizing these tutoring resources that they're providing to students. The problem was I had to put out a blank sheet of paper and I had to make sure that people signed their names and they put down their student IDs. So that was like super tedious. I would also lose that paper very easily. So I built this website that allowed people to first sign up. So at the beginning of a semester, I would give them a code. They would put in their initial information. They would get registered into my website. Then from then on, every time they showed up to class, all they had to do was go to the URL I would give them, and they would fill in this short piece of data. Just give me your net ID and the date that you showed up to class. Then when I wanted to report the numbers of how many people showed up to my class, I would just log into MongoDB and pull data from a cluster. All right, so moving on to summer 2020, this is when I finally landed an internship. This is where I finally, like all the things that I was doing, all the interview prep, all the recruiting, all the lead code, everything finally paid off. Even though the world was burning and it was really unprecedented times, I still got this Autodesk internship. So now let's move on to the next semester. We're now at fall 2020. The world is still on fire, but the classes I took are CS441, Computer Networks. I took this class with Dr. Ahmad Banafa again. I also took the CS497, that's one of the topics classes. Christopher Smith was teaching Linux programming that semester. In terms of like getting ready for an internship, this class was amazing. He really taught us how to do bash scripting and how to just be friends with the terminal. To this day, whenever I have to work with a terminal, especially when it comes to AWS, I think of Chris Smith and how he made it easy for us to grasp and how his homework assignments were literally a representation of what you have to do at your job. The other class that I took is CS471, Security and Information Assurance. This was also taught by Christopher Smith. The other class I took was this another upper division general education class. In terms of extracurricular activity, I started to prepare for full-time position interviews. So I started to do lead code again, spring 2021. This semester, I took the last 2 upper division general education classes. You already know I took the easiest courses because I was trying to wrap this up. Luckily, I did have an internship this semester. I was a Java-based software engineer intern at a team that I really didn't know what they were doing. Like their scope of work was way above my pay grade. But it was an internship and I still learned some stuff. So in terms of extracurricular activity, I started to work with CodePath.org. CodePath.org is a very awesome nonprofit organization that offers free classes, like technical training classes, to anyone who's a student. They have several different classes. One of them is Android mobile development. The other one is iOS. They have a website development class. They have a cybersecurity class. But since I knew Java, I thought that bringing their Android development class to East Bay would be a super good idea, not only to make my resume look good, but also to help other students at East Bay get some technical work, like some sort of like exposure to actually building projects that are meant to be deployed and meant to be used by other people. After all of that, I graduated. I didn't get a chance to walk the stage. It was kind of like a Zoom thing where they said, good luck, you've done a good job. I didn't show you every single project that I built because there was a lot of trial and error. It actually takes a lot of really bad ideas until you land on a good idea. So out of everything that I built, I think my most proud projects are the Flask final exam project and the MERN attendance tracker project. If you have any questions or any feedback, feel free to leave it in the comment section. And if you want to share how your computer science bachelor's degree or graduate degree was, then that will be wonderful as well. So like my video, subscribe to my channel, and share this video with your friends.